What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Convos podcast. First one of the 2024-2025 season here on the 515 Podcast Network. I'm Brock Bierman alongside with the boys, Hunter Rose, Chase Winterbourne, and Dawson Livingston, here to bring you guys kind of our opinions, really, not necessarily news coverage because we're not insiders whatsoever. We pretend to know ball and just talk about the NBA and usually we talk more about our favorite teams, obviously, and then, players that we hate. I guarantee you we have at some point talking about Jokic in this podcast, especially this episode. But Hunter, Chase, Dawson, how are we doing? It's been a while since we've done an episode, obviously. The offseason honestly was a little underwhelming. And then 2 weeks ago happened, which we can get into that. We will get into that with some of the topics that we have on this list today. But how are we all feeling about the upcoming season of the NBA?
I mean, I don't know how I feel, I guess. Right now I feel kind of sick, but that's completely unrelated to the Bucks. So, but no, I like, honestly, for my team, at least being Milwaukee, I honestly really like what we did. I think it easily goes under the radar just because there wasn't anything really crazy. But the fact that the Bucks were able to do what they did, like with what they had, is like a big deal. Being able to get players most notably Gary Trent Jr. on a minimum contract, which is kind of insane, along with some other things. And R.I.P. Thanasis, not on the team anymore.
Good. Maybe I personally think that will help.
Whoa.
I personally think that will help.
Good. Excuse me.
We're 2 minutes in. We've already offended
someone. that dude was able to make a roster, but Tony Snell was not. I'm sorry. That honestly will never be able to process. I will never be able to process that. But Chase, how are we feeling? Obviously, your team every year comes in with a lot of media attention, and I feel like this year more than ever, the pressure is on for the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I feel the same how I did last year. Like we literally, obviously, everyone knows we did absolutely nothing. I'm excited though about Dalton Connect.
I think you guys got a great draft pick.
I still can't believe he fell to 17. If I'm being honest, but I'm very excited about him. Not sure like how much he can do in year one, but I think it will be nice to have another shooter because this team needs shooters. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for JJ too. I think the offense, just from like what I've seen a few clips just from like preseason games, and like I don't know, it looks better. Obviously, it's just preseason, so who knows? But Lakers wise, I don't know, kind of feeling the same as last year. Maybe it'd be a little better. I'm not really sure. But yeah, just overall though, obviously, basketball is my sport, man. So I'm just excited. Like the weather changing right now, dude, just has me hyped, man. I'm excited for basketball to be back. So
I agree. Dawson, how we feeling?
The last 8 months, I was under the assumption that Mitchell wasn't re-signing, and so now that he's back with Cleveland, it makes me so happy. It just makes me happy. I mean, I thought at this point I would be very sad with the Cavs, be trading everyone wants out, but we're running the whole squad back one more year. We added the Jalen Tyson in the draft, who I think is going to be pretty solid for us, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I feel like this season's going to be really fun. There's a lot of storylines heading into this year for a lot of different teams and for various different reasons, which, always makes it for a fun and exciting season. This episode, we're going to definitely highlight the GM. What is it that they do? Is it like they send out forms or like questionnaires for these GMs, basically just asking them random things, ranging from who do you think is going to win the NBA title to who would you most likely pick to start a franchise with, which I don't know how much that actually matters at all. It's fun, though, to actually kind of dive into these questions and kind of look at them. So, of course, we'll start with the one that probably a lot of people were wondering. NBA GMs were asked who they think will win the 2025 NBA Finals. And I'm not going to lie, I was expecting Boston to be number one, which Boston is number one. For the people listening to the audio-only podcast, the Celtics received 83% of the votes at number one, Oklahoma City at 13%, and the Dallas Mavericks at 3%. I am, again, like I said, I'm not shocked that Boston got the number one most selected team. I'm honestly shocked that it was 83% though. That
83 is crazy.
That's
Actually crazy.
I don't know if that's telling of how good a lot of people think the Celtics are going to be this year. And they're just like last year. I feel like they're going to be the favorite pretty much until proven otherwise. And so they're titled, honestly, to lose, unfortunately, because all the pressure is on them. We haven't had a repeat title since the KD Warriors.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And so it's been a while. Are you guys more shocked that Dallas got number 3, or are you more shocked that Boston got 83% of the votes?
I feel like so there's 30 teams in the NBA. So that means 25 executives said the Boston Celtics are going to win it all. It's like to put an actual number to it, which I think is kind of wild, because that means there's 4 people that said the Thunder, and there's one person that said the Mavericks. So I
wonder who picked the Mavs.
Yeah, it could be anybody. It'd be kind of funny if it were Brad Stevens. But I don't think it was. So but yeah, I don't know. I think it does show like where everyone thinks like the head of the NBA is. I mean, especially after having a season that Boston had last year, having a postseason that Boston had last year. It's hard, I think, for someone for really anybody that watches the NBA to be like, yes, I would not have the Celtics as my favorite right now. And they also like didn't really lose anything. I think the only thing that I really think of that's like notable this offseason is like didn't they get Lonnie Walker?
Yeah.
Like somehow. I still don't know how that happened. But it's like, okay, now they just have another depth piece. Outside of that, I don't really think there was anything that like they really lost or gained all that much. So it's hard to say who could really dethrone them after what they did last year.
Yeah, I'm with Hunter there. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm trying to think of a team that I would pick for, and like I probably would have the Celtics too, just because I mean they return everybody. Like I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty solid reason. Obviously some other teams got better too, but like just until they prove me wrong, I kind of am in the same boat there. It's just kind of surprising though to see 83. So.
Yeah, I'm 80, like Hunter said and Chase said, the 83% is kind of shocking. I like that 4 GMs that would pick the Thunder. I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty telling.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have had OKC at 2, but I think it's kind of cool. OKC had quite a few pieces in the offseason, most notably Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. So we'll see, but it is pretty shocking that 25 GMs picked the Celtics to win the title, which that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's obvious to me who picked the Mavericks, obviously, that being that there's only one team. And if it's not Dallas, I really actually do want to know who picked them. Oklahoma City, I could see a couple teams picking them. I mean, they were really good last year, and we'll get into this. A lot of people are actually favoriting one of their star players to win a pivotal regular season award this year. So they're going to be in contention, obviously. And you look at the predictions for the West, given the surveys that they sent out to the GMs, 80% Oklahoma City finishing first. Nobody had them finishing third, which is funny because there's maybe one person has them finishing fourth. Maybe that's the Mavericks again. I don't know. Minnesota was the heavy favorite for second place, which I'm not sure. Hunter, do you know for sure when this was sent out?
This would have been it's a good question, actually. I think it was after. It is after like the trade happened.
Okay,
I know that,
so even after Karl Anthony Towns gets traded to New York, which we'll get into that a little bit later in the show, Minnesota is still the heavy favorite to finish second in the Western Conference, followed by Denver and Dallas. Some people still have Phoenix finishing first, which shocks me. To give the order for the people, again, listening to the audio-only podcast, Oklahoma City at number 1, Minnesota at 2, Denver at 3, Dallas at 4, Phoenix at 5, Memphis, who had a rocky season to say the least last year, at 6, New Orleans at 7, and the Stephen Curry Golden State Warriors at 8. What were you guys' thoughts on this? It's a big change from last year because you look at the notes down below. 70% picked Denver to win the West, and Denver now is kind of borderline second, mostly third. Some people have them finishing fourth. So obviously a lot of things have changed, and most notably there is a team that is missing on here that, again, gets a lot of publicity, to say the least, in the NBA. So I'll open it up to you guys. What is your guys' reactions to these rankings with Oklahoma City leading the way?
Yeah, I mean, I can start off just because obviously I have some opinions on the West here. I'm not surprised with OKC. I mean, I probably would have them at 1-2. The Minnesota one's tough for me, man, because like obviously, yeah, losing Cat, and I know we'll talk about it later, but like that's a big loss. But I don't know, like I'm really excited to see what like Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon bring to them. I don't know, I'm really high on them. I'm not a huge Terrence Shannon guy after what happened. We don't talk about that, but I think they're honestly two really solid rookies. I'm not sure how much they'll bring, but I don't mind that at 2. I'm always gonna hate on Denver. I still think they'll be a solid team, but I think we mentioned it kind of like near our last podcast that we did, but like losing KCP, dude, that's tough, man. He's a really solid player. I went to the Magic, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I know they brought in Westbrook, so Westbrook, sorry, Russ, but I don't know. We'll see how that pieces together. I think kind of a team that I'm surprised is so low. And I know they had like a rocky finish last year, not finish, just rocky year was Memphis. I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see what they do this year. I think that they could kind of be towards the top again with Ja and everyone else healthy. I know I'm going to get slandered here, but I think Zach Edey could be kind of nice for them this year. I know Hunter does not like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of surprised to see them at 6. Obviously, I know everyone's surprised to see Phoenix getting a first place vote. I don't know if it's the Monte Morris effect or what, but that's kind of surprising to me. So, and then, yeah, of course, some idiot voted Golden State at 8. So I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, my main kind of takeaway though is I think Memphis could shock some people. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm kind of on the same boat where I think Edey not going to be a force to be reckoned with. I just think that he could be a good piece that would take Memphis to at least a different level compared to where they were in the past. If they get the first seed somehow and Zach Edey's playing unbelievable, I'm taking whoever the 8 seed is, given Zach Edey's experience being the 1 seed in tournaments. But I think Memphis could be really good as well. So we'll see what they're able to do. Hunter, I know that you love to hate on Denver as well. What about Phoenix? Do you think Phoenix has a chance to make some noise this year, or are they still dealing with the cap issues because of the 2 or 3 stars that they've tried to acquire over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really difficult for them to really do much, honestly. Just because, I mean, it's hard when you are running out of cap space. And especially like, I think the thing that's tough with them too is they're just not getting any younger. If I remember, I think they got Ryan Dunn in the draft, and so hopefully that can help on the defensive side, which is definitely one of the more lacking pieces for this team. But yeah, especially like, I don't know, we didn't really see a lot of the trio last year between Book, KD, and Beal. And to be honest, I don't think many of us are expecting to see much of it at all again this year. Just the fact that all of them are, at least KD's aging. Beal's getting up there in age now too. Book's still young. Like, I'm sure he'll be okay, but I think it's just too much. I think the main thing they have to probably figure out is just what does it look like for these 3 to just run their own kind of triangle offense, I guess. I don't know. But even then, it's like there's not much firepower outside of them. I think for the rest of the standings, I think the team that I'm kind of interested to see what other votes they got is Sacramento, because it seems like not many executives were moved by DeRozan going out there after the whole fallout in Chicago. So I think that's interesting from here. I also agree about Memphis. I think they, honestly, I'd probably put them at the 5 instead. But yeah, I feel like Denver just needs to keep falling. I don't think we're talking. I think we mentioned this at the very last podcast that we had. People aren't talking about KCP leaving enough.
That's right. That's
genuinely,
right.
that is not as big. Like, there's, I don't like. Are we really expecting Christian Brown to be doing that much better? I'm sorry. No, I hate the man, first of all. Second of all, he's not like that's not your replacement that you're going to get out of KCP. And so I think, yeah, again, I think people are kind of starting to figure out Denver even a little bit. Obviously, we saw it in the playoffs getting beaten a little bit earlier than most people expected. So, other than that, it must just straightforward. So, except Golden State, being at 8's kind of crazy. But I guess they're expecting a MVP Steph season or something at age 34, something like that. So that'll be interesting if that happens.
Did you guys see the quote from Bradley Beal?
That he's never been swept before? Or
what was that?
That he's never been swept, or is there a different
no, he said on a podcast, I think earlier this week, he missed 30 games and the Phoenix Suns won 49. And he said, if I played half of them games, we're the number 1 seed in the West.
It's a thought.
All right.
An idea.
Cool.
Okay.
No, that's confidence.
Cool.
Okay. No comment.
Dawson, what are your thoughts on the West?
I think what stands out to me is how deep the West is. Like, obviously, we can only see the top 8 right now, but like as Hunter mentioned I'm curious. Like, I think Sacramento is going to be better than people think this year. A team that we always like to rag on, especially Chase, is the Clippers. They're not even mentioned here, and I know they lost Paul George, but they still have they're not tanking. That team is still trying to compete. I mean, it just shows you like the West is legitimately like 10 or 11 teams deep in the playoffs that legit can say they can make a run. Even a team like Houston, which I feel like we don't really ever talk about that much. They made some good additions in the offseason, drafting Reed Shepherd. They're going to be competitive this year.
They have a good
I think it
coach.
just goes to show you like how deep the West and how competitive the West is going to be this year. Like it has been for the last pretty much ever since I started watching basketball. It's always been competitive. But no, I think we also Minnesota at 2 is crazy. After the Cat trade, I know that's my Timberwolves from last year, but I don't know if I can hop on the T-Wolves bandwagon this year.
Am I crazy to think that they might be in the play-in?
Well, that means they'd only need to be a 7 seed, right? So
yeah,
that's
No.
tough.
I don't know. This idea of, again, they have other good pieces that may like make this comparison seem a little too extreme. But like Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert, is that not just Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in Utah?
Maybe.
I think Ant's a little bit better of a player than Donovan is, and that's coming from a Cavs fan.
But
I
like,
think Ant can do a little bit more on offense.
if they're a little bit better, like the Jazz, in my opinion, were never like contenders. So that's the thing with me. I don't think that Rudy Gobert can be like the second, even sometimes the third guy on a roster to win a title.
I will say the thing that Minnesota does have going for him, where like you could still expect them to be really good, is the amount of depth they have on that roster now is insane. They still have Mike Conley still there. Obviously, you add Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. You add Rob Dillingham. Like they still have Naz Reid and Jaden Daniels.
Naz Reid, bro. How can you forget about Naz Reid?
Like they're still loaded. They easily go 9-10 deep off the bench. So like if you still are a Minnesota truther, you could point to that. I don't know, man. It's just I think they took a huge step back at that. Yeah,
I don't trust Julius Randle to be healthy enough.
No, nor good.
I'm okay. I'm still on the train. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think like don't get me wrong. Do I think Cat's probably the best player involved in this trade? Absolutely. I think we're still somehow overvaluing what Karl Anthony Towns did. Like he's still good, and this is coming from somebody who, for years before Anthony Edwards ended up on the Timberwolves, said that they need to trade Karl Anthony Towns, and it finally happened now, which is wild that now it happened. But I think. I mean, like I just said, I think Dante, I think people forget after Julius Randle was injured when Dante was on the Knicks, bro was averaging 20 for a while. He's a really, really, really solid player. And especially like as Mike Conley ages, I mean, hey, you could throw in Dante at the 1 even. But he's able to get after it. Your defense, honestly, is still really, really there. And Julius Randle, he gets hate. He gets a lot of hate sometimes, but he also can be, there are moments where he's a phenomenal player and he can add a lot of being able to do a lot of different things. Honestly, I think Karl Anthony Towns kind of just, at some points, just looked like a big man shooter at times. There's actually a clip from the preseason earlier. Karl Anthony Towns literally did something that Brooke Lopez does like 5 times a game, which is walks up the floor, stands like 4 feet behind the 3-point line, gets the ball, and just shoots it immediately. And so it's like, all right, cool. Like, this happens all the time. He's still a great player, but Julius Randle, I think, still has it in him to be a good player. And not to mention, we're not thinking about the future here. Minnesota, by getting rid of Cat's contract, which is surprisingly one of the biggest in the NBA, leaves up a lot of room for them to work with, to be able to move pieces like Julius Randle, who has a smaller contract on an expiring deal. You don't have to worry about that. Same with Dante. Even Gobert's contract is starting to get to its end, if I remember right. And so there's a lot of things that they can do even within this season or the next season to look even better than what they look like with Cat.
Good points.
Well said.
I'm on the train still, I believe.
We believe Minnesota. That'll be the only time I've ever seen you have any hope in a Minnesota team, or at least.
Yeah, I hope all the other teams fail, including one going into a bye week this week. But that's okay.
Sam Darnold.
The Minnesota Vikings would be the one team to lose their quarterback during a bye week.
Exactly.
But
Gobert's got 1 guaranteed year left on his deal and a player option after the end of this season, which, spoiler alert, he's taking. It's $46 million. So he's taking that player option. So he's on the deal for 2 years.
I will say, I do think like the West is definitely the deepest in terms of like parity. I will also bring up the argument that I personally would take the top 4 in the East versus the top 4 in the West any day of the week at this point. Just this season, the way that those top 4 East teams, depending on who you think is the top 4, I personally think that they're better than the top 4 of what the West could bring. Now, I do think Oklahoma City probably would beat 3 out of the 4, maybe 2 out of the 4 in a 7-game series pretty easily. But the East is definitely top heavy, and then when the floor drops, it goes. There is no other team that you're like, I could see them being decently good. Like, we ain't talking about freaking Charlotte out of nowhere making a run like we are with Sacramento potentially being a team that nobody's talking about. Chicago's one of them. Let's get into the Eastern Conference. I mean, they didn't even list the 8th team. There is no 8.
That's crazy.
Boston at number 1 with 97% of the votes. Shout out Cleveland for giving their vote to themselves.
Toby Altman, you are not slick, my boy. You are not slick.
We all know that Cleveland got that other first place vote, but Boston got the most first place votes, so they're at 1. New York at 2 with 43%. Philadelphia falls at 3. Cleveland at 4. Milwaukee at 5. That honestly kind of shocks me. I will say they got the most fourth place votes percentage wise, but still kind of shocks me that not many people are really giving them the credit they probably deserve. Orlando and Indiana fall at 6 and 7, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of people were hyping up Indiana at the end of last year, and to see the GMs not really give them as much credit as what the media may be giving them, I feel like is a good sign that maybe Indiana takes a step back this year.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry, I just can't get over the 97-3, dude. Kobe Altman,
Shout
buddy.
out Cleveland, man.
Like,
Cleveland.
make it more subtle next time. Jesus Christ.
The best part is that they got 3% for they got one vote for first, and then second they barely even got 2.
Who's the 2 GMs saying that? Oh man, dude. I would love to interview these GMs on their thought process, bro. This is hilarious.
I mean, Hunter, what are your thoughts on Milwaukee percentage, at least based off of the league? I can make an argument for why they didn't get as much love, but that's off of personal biases from past coaches that I've had in my life. So
I'm all about the disrespect, man. I can't wait. I think
them receipts.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just think it's just interesting. Like, honestly, I just see how much Paul George is being valued. Obviously, throwing them into 3. Obviously, even if they didn't have PG, they would still be like in this list, probably within that top 5. But it's just like, man, like all I gotta say is we have Giannis and everybody else doesn't. So it's like I don't know how you're just like, yeah, they're falling off.
Mr. Dribble and Dunk Boy.
Exactly. And the other thing too, we have the most talented shooting guard that we've had in years. Like starting finally. The last talent, I mean, we had the supposed now 3-and-D player, Grayson Allen. I still don't understand how he got that title out of nowhere last year. Then we have Malik Beasley, who great shooter. Wish for his best over in Detroit now. We'll always miss the thug shake. But then then it's a Dante, and that's basically the list. There's not much competition. And so having a guy like GTJ now, I think it really, really helps out being able to space out the floor more. And even just like seeing some of the ways in which we got younger. I mean, I don't think they're getting a lot of like much playing time, if any at all. But I do like adding Tyler Smith and AJ Johnson. I think there is some potential, especially with Tyler Smith. But it's like there's a lot of different things that can happen here. The biggest question mark I have for them is just defense. That's something they've been known for. That's something they were known for even before getting Drew Holiday. That's something they were known for after getting Drew Holiday. Now that he's gone, we saw the defense take a step back on the perimeter, especially having Dame and Malik, who at moments looked okay, at other moments did not look okay. But especially if we get a steals leader in Gary Trent Jr. in his previous years back in action on the defensive end of the ball, I think it'll really, really help out there. And hopefully Doc Rivers can cook something up to get Giannis not just guarding whoever's in the corner and actually guarding like good players. So
just curious for everybody on here, would you take Damian Lillard and Giannis together over any other duo in the Eastern Conference this year? Because I would. Talent-wise, I still think that they have the best duo in the Eastern Conference. And that's coming from a Celtics fan who I really don't even know who's the best player on their team.
Yeah, I think I would, Brock. I'd agree.
Yeah. Just because Giannis is top 3 in the league, right? Like on any given basis, Giannis looks like the best player in the world.
Yep.
And Dame, when he's on, Dame looks like a top 10 player all day, every day. Whereas I guess the only other one you could argue is Boston, who Tatum's a top 10 player, I think, or around there when he's playing good. Jaylen Brown, when it goes south for Jaylen Brown, it goes real south real fast. So I think for those reasons, I think Milwaukee's probably the best.
And I feel like a big reason they ended up winning the finals is because the one thing that didn't happen during the playoffs is Jaylen Brown going south, which kind of, or at least more consistently like it was in the past and the previous couple of playoffs. But any teams from here that other placements based off of GM rankings that shock you outside of obviously Cleveland getting that one first place vote? I do agree that I think that Paul George is getting way overvalued, which I mean, we will get into that even more here as we go through these other rankings that are provided by the GMs before every season. But New York, I do think getting Karl-Anthony Towns actually will help them. I do think at the end of the day, maybe it will benefit both Minnesota and New York. Maybe that will grow on me as the season goes on. Right now, I would say New York probably got the better end of the deal, but it's one of those things where maybe we're in January or February and we're talking about Minnesota actually getting the better end of that trade.
No Miami, thank goodness.
I mean,
they'll sneak in as the 10th seed. Don't worry. They'll get in the plan somehow.
Please tell me that they're playing the 2 seed then so they can eliminate New York or Philadelphia in the first round. God forbid I have to go through another Celtics-Miami first round or even just playoff matchup.
Nope. You are next year after winning the title. That's your punishment.
That's the punishment.
That's the punishment. You got to go through another Miami series.
No, that's I honestly like the Eastern Conference side of things. I hate playing Miami more than any other team just because their fans are annoying, dude. I cannot stand them. Lakers, obviously, but like
True.
Miami's the easiest second.
Yeah. I know I'm on your top 5 hate list, Brock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you watched the Sports Nerds episode last week, Dawson and I gave our top 5 teams we love to hate the most. And number 2 was the Lakers for me, and number 1 was any team LeBron plays on, just because of the amount of pain that he brought me over my lifetime. But keeping going with the things that the GMs have brought up this one I found interesting because I literally feel like this is everybody, not just GMs. Which team's level of success this season is the toughest to predict? And for those listening on the audio-only podcast, if you're already thinking LA's number one, you're 100% right. 17% of the vote was the Lakers at number one, tied for second, the Houston Rockets and the New Orleans Pelicans, which is interesting because that was mentioned when we were talking about the Western Conference, how the Houston Rockets might be able to make some noise this year. Phoenix is another team I feel like a lot of people don't really know what their season's going to look like. Obviously, they have the talent, or at least top 3 stars that they claim that they have. And outside of that, it's still kind of a wait and see. Dallas, who just got Klay Thompson this offseason, is tied at 5th with the Philadelphia 76ers, who were also able to get another former All-Star in Paul George, both at 7% for 5. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Any other notes that you guys want to mention on like teams that you think might be tough to predict? Me personally, I think the Clippers are a team that are really tough to predict because I think with the loss of Paul George isn't a huge loss to where they could still compete to get a decent seed in the Western Conference. But at the same time, Kawhi's got to play, and if Kawhi ain't playing, they ain't making the playoff. They're not even making the play-in game.
Yeah, I would agree, Brock. I obviously, the Lakers won, new head coach, lot of stuff going on there. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. Maybe this is me personally, but I'm kind of surprised the Suns are on here. Like, I just have thought like every year they're just going to be like middle of the pack type of team. Like, I'm not really seeing them being high in the West, and I don't see them being low, but I just think that they're going to be in the middle.
I think it's one of those things where as long as KD is still on that roster, they're always going to assume that there's a hypothetical chance that we get MVP KD again.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm kind of surprised at. And then I think the team, I like the Rockets. I think Dawson mentioned that one. And then who mentioned Sacramento? Was that Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually that one might be the one. I would probably maybe even vote top 5 if I was a GM, just because, I mean, I don't know. DeRozan, like, yes, he's good and stuff, but like, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see like what he brings to the Sacramento team. And also just kind of like coming off of last year too, like Sacramento, like I think a lot of people were surprised at how bad they were. So, and I mean, they still, I feel like got a lot of the same pieces and stuff. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to do now with DeRozan and see if they have a little bounce back year. So, I would maybe put them kind of up there, just for me personally. So,
This is going to pay me to say this. All right. I guess this really hurts, guys. Okay. The New Orleans Pelicans. I am so confused on what it's going to look like. I have been on this train for forever of wanting the Pelicans to be good for absolutely zero reason besides the fact that I think they should be good. I don't like their offense is just hoopers. Like, are they just going to run iso ball and floppy like all game long? Like, I don't understand. It's like you have a good team, but like I don't know what you do with it. It's like a 2K made team. Like, it's cool. Like, I love that they added DeJounte. Like, DeJounte and CJ in a backcourt. That's going to look really, really good. But it's also like they don't have a center. They don't. They just like
Zion can play center.
It's Zion and Daniel Tice, and then that dude out of Baylor, who I refuse to say his name because I absolutely hate him. However, like that's the team at the 5, and then the rest of it, everybody else is just like, okay, like go have fun, kids. Like you can have your Clementines and Gatorade when the game's over. Like you guys have the chance to be such a good team, but I don't know how. I don't know how you put it all together. And so I think that's the team that like sticks out to me the most and what I would agree with. I think, LA being at 1 though, I think the Lakers being there, that just makes sense because I feel like it's always the Lakers, especially when you still have LeBron James, still the oldest player in the league, but he's still LeBron James. So what's it going to look like? And so that makes sense to me. But yeah, I think Clippers is a good pull. Sacramento is a good pull. I don't really know what other teams I would put up here. Yeah, I think those are probably the big ones on my mind at least.
Are you guys shocked that Miami didn't make the top 5, or do you guys?
We all know they suck, Brock.
Yeah.
That's why. We all know they're mid.
Yeah, I'm with Hunter. Exactly what he said.
Brock's not going to say anything, bro, because Brock is terrified of Miami.
Yeah, he
Heat
is.
culture. Heat culture, baby.
They do
Voodoo
one
magic
thing. All
every year.
they do is build a team in hopes of beating the Celtics. Let's all admit that. That is what Heat culture is. Can we build a team to where we can beat the Celtics? Outside of that, we do not care about anything else. That's Miami for you.
Yep.
Do not care.
That is Miami for you. Now kind of speaking of Miami, this is something that I think is interesting. Who's the best coach in the NBA? Receiving
Mike Budenholzer. That is.
This is the worst list I've ever
Where's
seen.
JJ Redick?
Receiving 69% of the vote at number 1, Eric Spoelstra from Miami. Mike Budenholzer getting votes. Steve Kerr still up here with 7% of the votes at number 3. Honestly, how do you pronounce Oklahoma City's guy's last name?
Dagnall, isn't it?
Okay, Dagnall.
Yeah.
He's at 2 with 17% of the vote. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I am honestly so shocked that out here is Budenholzer and Steve Kerr still even receiving votes in the NBA. And dude, freaking Joe Mazzulla didn't even receive 1 vote.
Yeah, that is kind of shocking.
He doesn't get to receive a vote. Sorry.
What?
He doesn't get one.
But come on, he watches
He has a super team.
horror
He doesn't
films
get
or
one.
whatever the heck he watches before every game and all this stuff.
That is so weird, bro. I am with you. The guy who just won an NBA title doesn't get. I'm with you, Brock, in that regards.
And the guy that got the only reason he has a title to his name is because of Giannis is receiving votes.
Yeah, that I would love to hear Hunter's thoughts.
Yeah.
I hate this list. This is the most most mid list I think I've ever seen in my life. First of all, we need to get off this Spo hype train. He's a good coach. Can we stop? I feel like anytime you turn on any Heat game, it's not about what's happening on the court. It's look at Spo on the sideline.
So inspirational.
That's a man. That's a man thinking. That's a thinking man who's earned his paycheck.
Yeah.
No, he sucks.
This is
If he was
exactly
a good coach,
why I
you
put
will
this
not
on
play
there.
for him. That's a wild thought that apparently nobody's thought of. But literally the only coach I see on here that I think I agree with, probably Oklahoma City's coach, and then Chris Finch. Those are the only two that make sense to me.
Yep.
Mike Budenholzer being on here, dude is not coached for no.
Or Doc Rivers on the list too. Then if you're gonna do that,
you want to know the last time he coached for a team was when they lost to an 8 seed. All right, that's the last time he coached a basketball game was losing to an 8 seed. Okay, how are we doing?
who's the number 1 coach?
Yeah, who's your number 1 then in the NBA?
My number 1?
Yeah,
I'd probably go with Chris Finch. I feel like he's a good coach.
I like that.
Yeah. I would only vote Steve Kerr because he just refused to play Jason Tatum in the Olympics. So
He's a smart coach.
But if Jason Tatum goes all I took that personally and with zero aura memes his way to an MVP,
then all right.
Then Steve Kerr should never receive another vote ever. And then if Jaylen Brown is second place in the MVP, then Steve Kerr's got he could be ostracized from the NBA by the end of this year if Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have this unbelievable duo year just based off of the fact that what happened in the Olympics.
Yeah, that is very true, Brock. Yeah, I'm actually with Hunter. He kind of stole my thunder there. I was trying to hit Thunder in there because I would have Mark D up there. I'm just gonna call him Mark D, by the way.
Mark D.
Marky Poo.
Marky, yeah. I really like Chris Finch too. Yeah, Hunter kind of just stole my little thunder there. But yeah, I like Chris Finch a lot. I think he's a really good coach. It was unfortunate. Bro got hurt on the sidelines last year. Poor guy.
He's willing to sacrifice for his team, man.
That's tough, man. But yeah, I really like him. I think he's a solid coach too. So
Like Nick Nurse. That's another name missing. I feel like people love Nick Nurse. And everybody loves the Sixers. So I don't know why Nick Nurse isn't
That's
here.
a
But
good
Not
point,
Nick
though.
Nurse.
That low key is a good point. Because I feel like a lot of people do give credit to Nick Nurse for everything that he was able to do with that Raptors team. You can do what everybody has opinions on that season. But anyways, I haven't heard honestly a lot of bad things about Nick Nurse, and everybody's still hyping up the 76ers. So why isn't he up here?
I don't get it.
Another one that I thought was interesting that I feel like we'll get into when we give our actual preseason predictions. I was looking at the Rookie of the Year picks. Reed Shepherd got 50% of the vote at number 1. He got drafted to Houston. Zach Edey at 2 with 30% of the votes to Memphis. And Stephon Castle from San Antonio, 13%. Stephon, correction. The first 2 picks, one of them received some votes. Alex Sarr with Washington. No one took the time to even consider the Hawks' first overall pick. I don't even know how to pronounce his.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Zachary is his first name. Rasheer or something like that. Rasheer, something like that. Nobody gave him a vote. No, not one person. That's Hawks. What are you doing? You're not even voting your guy to be MVP. Okay, I'm starting to think. I guess I should maybe read into this article. Do they allow people to vote for their own teams and players?
Yes. You have
I feel like they would.
If that's not the case, dude, I who the hell voted Cleveland number 1? I need to do some investigative research on this, bro. If it's not Kobe,
it was the Celtics.
Is it just I don't know who's Brad Stevens? Did he just randomly throw a vote out there?
Bradley likes to throw out some random things every once in a while.
I guess, dude.
Like putting Taco against the Raptors with 2 seconds left in the bubble, just to guard the inbounder. Still didn't work. OG and Anunoby able to get that out, but no, the Hawks not even getting one vote for Zachary kind of shocked me. Reed Shepherd, though, which we'll talk about when we get into our legit predictions, I do think is a very good candidate for Rookie of the Year. I do love that Hunter was not excited to talk about Zach Edey, and he received the second most votes. So that was just another one that I want to point out. Any thoughts on this before we move on?
Giannis is the only man who does what Shaq does, and then everyone just ignores the fact when somebody else is like Shaq. They're like, "Oh my gosh, he's so good," and then the moment Giannis does it, it's like, run and dunk, no bag, no skill. But no. Then if Shaq played today, I promise you, it'd be like, no bag, put him to the free throw line, hack a Shaq. What? Now we have Zach Edey. I don't get it, man.
Hey,
what does he do?
I will say, kind of off topic though, does that say last year Victor had 50%?
Yeah, do you not remember who the second place was?
Well, probably Scoot.
I don't know, Dawson. Who was it?
I think it was Scoot.
I'm shocked. I thought that'd be a lot more.
Man.
Yeah, that does shock me, but I just wanted to point out that Dawson
still had
Scoot Henderson.
It's okay.
Rookie of the Year
Sorry,
last year
Dawson.
for our predictions, but
Shoot.
it's all right. Yeah, the other award, and we were kind of highlighting this before we got to it, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading the way for MVP votes. MVP votes is it's a weird way to say of 40% of the league thinks that he's going to win MVP this year. Luka at number 2 with 30%. And then tied for third is Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Jason Tatum, which is funny because those are the 3 most favorite players for Hunter and Chase to make fun of and talk about. So I'll open this up. Giannis also received some vote. Jaylen Brown received a vote, at least one vote, which shocked me. Anthony Edwards also did as well. Last year, Jokic got 43% of the vote for MVP, and then this year, the highest percentage is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 40. So open it up to discussion. Fair board for the GMs, or are some players too high up? Because I will say I do think Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic won't be in the top 3 for vote getters this season. I truly do believe that. And one of them might be because of voter fatigue. Bueller.
All right, I guess I'll lead off. Yeah, the three guys tied for third, man. That is absolutely nasty work. That's all I'm going to say with that. I get that out of here, please. I would agree with the first two, Shea and Luca. I don't know. It's just kind of sad. Like Shea might win it, and like half of his points this year might come off of free throws. So I don't know if that's MVP worthy. Sorry, Shea. I just have to mention that real quick. But I don't know. I really don't know who I would vote for, if I'm being honest. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. But I don't know. I would kind of be ashamed if Shea did win it, because I know that half of his points are going to be off free throws and just foul baiting. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. So
I love that Luka is basically the if not when situation that everybody's just waiting for to win MVP, and yet he hasn't done it yet.
Yep.
I swear he's top 2 every year.
Now, let's see. Bottom 3. So we have Mr. Maybe not even the best player on his team. Then we have Mr. Maybe. This is up for interpretation. Then we have Mr. Kitchen Sink, who I think will probably still somehow manage to be in the top 3 because, big man, throw pass good. And then we have Embiid, who might play 30 games this year. So that's definitely close enough to win an MVP. But yeah, no, I think Luka and Shea are probably definitely locked in for those first two. I'm always gonna vote Giannis. Yeah, I don't know. I could see the thing that's so hard with MVP now is it is so narrative based and it's so like first player to do this or first player in so many years to do this, and so I think most of it is probably honestly, if I had to make a top 3, it'd be Shea, Luka, and probably Ant. To be honest, just because Ant had so much love in the postseason that'll leak into this season. Obviously, he deserves it, being a really good and talented player, but I think that will probably be a driving force as to why he will be put into that conversation. So maybe Jalen Brunson. I'm kind of shocked he's not on here because he was getting a lot of love last year too.
Well, if we're going off a narrative, where's Tyrese?
True.
Yeah, where's he at, Hunter?
Johnson, where's Donovan Mitchell?
Nowhere to be found, like as expected. But I don't know. I get Jokic off the list, bro. I am never gonna vote for that man for MVP again. He has 3. That's enough. I don't even know if he should have 3, but he's done. Like, check. You did what you needed to do. I really think, honestly, it's gonna come down to 3 players, like Hunter said. Shea, I think Luka or Giannis. I think this is a year where Giannis could win back the MVP. First one since, 2020 that he won the MVP?
Does he have one only?
I think he's got 2.
2?
Yeah. And the same thing, like Brock was saying, if Luka's not going to win it now, when is he going to win the award? I think Dallas is poised to set up for a really good season, and it could mean that Dallas is either the 2 or 3 seed in the West, which I think will be enough to get it done for Luka if he has the stats and he's not hurt. So I think I'd probably go Luka, Shea, and Giannis if to round out my top 3.
Yeah, I'm excited to give out our preseason picks when we get there, get to that point in the show. Obviously, it's our first show. It's still too early maybe to give that. Looking at the other things that were mentioned here, I'm probably going to skip over some or just kind of go over them quickly and just tell me to stop if you guys want to make a quick note on anything. Which team do you think will improve the most in the 2024-2025? Chase mentioned the Memphis Grizzlies, Hunter and Dawson. We've basically all touched a little bit on the Memphis Grizzlies at some point, receiving 67% of the vote at number 1, San Antonio at 13%. And the 76ers are third with 7%, which I find shocking.
Does that seriously say Detroit Pistons?
That's what I was about to say.
There's no way that seriously says Detroit Pistons.
Detroit Pistons also receiving votes.
No, not real.
The only way for them is still down, and I think they won maybe 13 games.
Oh my gosh.
Also, the Phoenix Suns, bro, get them off the list too, bro. They're going to get
amen
worse if
that too,
anything.
Dawson. Yeah,
What?
amen.
I was going to mention that I think the Magic might fall off a little bit this year, but
Not with KCP.
that's,
Why would they get worse with KCP?
KCP is a glue guy, so maybe
Dawson's
exactly.
hitting
I'm
right
gonna be
now.
wrong.
Yeah.
Other things, teams that made the best overall moves this season. Number one, Oklahoma City Thunder with 37% of the vote. I think Hartenstein and Caruso is the main drive on that. The 76ers second with 33%. Paul George basically the highlight, maybe if there is a highlight of the 76ers offseason. And the Knicks at number 3 with 20% of the vote, which, I mean, you can make a couple conversations on the moves that they made, which, I mean, I think gets into our next one. Yeah. Anything that you guys want to talk on before we get to the next one, which is most surprising moves of the offseason?
I love that the Brooklyn Nets are on here. There's still somebody like me that thinks that's just maybe could be
Hey,
good.
they got their picks back, so who knows?
That is pretty solid, but you still have Ben Simmons, so come on, guys.
Hey, he's playing this year.
Yeah,
Maybe.
We all know it's almost time for NBA basketball to be back when we see Ben Simmons shooting in an empty gym. That's when you know the season's almost here.
Perfect.
And by golly, that video was posted like a week ago.
I'm surprised he hasn't came out and said he's hurt or something. What was the most surprising move of the offseason? I'm shocked that this wasn't higher up percentage-wise, but number one, by far, Karl-Anthony Towns to New York, 27%. Paul George was number 2 to Philadelphia with 23%. I don't know if that was really shocking to me because, like, the most obvious tampering ever in the NBA with Joel Embiid just basically giving them the side eye in the middle of an NBA countdown show on ESPN. DeMar DeRozan to Sacramento. I almost said San Antonio. He has already been to San Antonio, but DeMar to Sacramento, 17%, number 3. And Mikal Bridges to New York, 10%, number 4, highlighting that New York made multiple moves to improve their roster this offseason. And the number 1 overall pick was number 5 at 7%, Zachary to the Atlanta Hawks.
What's his last name, Brock?
I don't know. I don't know. You won't need to remember it. Let's just go off of that.
Oh,
no.
Crazy.
Wow, he's writing him off.
He hasn't even played a game yet.
You're gonna know his name. You're
Anthony
gonna learn
Bennett.
it. Well.
Whoa! That's what that was. Okay. Me personally, I think Karl-Anthony Towns was the most shocking move this offseason. I mean, that was in the middle of a football game I was calling, and you guys were like, my phone was lighting up, and I was like, what is going on here? I was like, and then I don't even remember who mentioned it. Dawson was the one that exploded my phone with just text about it, and I was like, Cat got traded for what? And I'm in the middle of a game. I was like, I'll look at this later. But just based off of that, for me, Karl-Anthony Towns by far going to New York was the most surprising move. And maybe it was because Karl-Anthony Towns, Hunter mentioned it, he was one of the guys that has been in the trade rumors probably for like since he showed up to Minnesota after year 1. So the fact that he finally maybe actually got traded, which he did, kind of shocked me more that it actually happened versus the rumors being true.
Dude, these GMs were throwing away votes at the end. Did that say Tyus Jones to Phoenix, bro?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
Denny Avdia to Portland. They were just throwing these votes away. Holy moly.
Oh, boy.
I think that they got to list multiple players.
I guess, but geez Louise. I don't know if Tyus Jones to Phoenix is that crazy of a move, but we'll see.
But I personally think Mikal Bridges to New York will have a way bigger impact than Paul George to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I would agree, Brock. I think Hunter would agree with that too. Hunter's a Mikal Bridges guy.
Yeah, I am. That I am.
But any other thoughts on this section at all?
Can I add Dalton Connect to the Lakers at 17? Or
I don't know if it was surprising. I'd call it a good move.
Okay.
How about Donovan to go back to Cleveland?
Is
Yeah,
there a least
add that.
surprising? And it's number one with 100% of the votes. LA Lakers drafting Bronny James.
Ronnie J. Yes, I was
Least
so
surprising
shocked.
move of the season.
Other
Yes.
ones that were mentioned in here, and these are going to go a little quicker. Biggest impact, people think Paul George, number one at 60%. Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns tied at 13%. Alex Caruso at 4 with 7% of the vote, which leads into the next one. Talking about the most underrated player acquisition, Alex Caruso was number one with 23% of the vote. KCP to Orlando with 17% of the vote.
Tyus Jones.
Tyus Jones tied for third
Dude.
with Isaiah Hartenstein. Klay Thompson to Dallas, and Chris Paul, who I think a lot of people would forget, is in San Antonio.
Bro,
That's a
these-
Josh Giddey.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't need to touch
Oh
on
man.
that. And then the final one, wanting to start a franchise, Victor Wembanyama, 77% of the vote. I mean, it's probably not too shocking that a lot of people would want to start off with a young freak athlete that nobody knows if they're going to be an amazing star or not. And then Shea and Jokic tied at 2. We're beating the dead horse with this Jokic stuff, but Luka at 4.
Luka only getting 1 is kind of wild. I know Wemby's like this generational prospect, but Luka is like a top 5 player in the league, and he's like 25.
Yep.
It's a little wild.
Hunter, can you give us a quick 2-minute wise words of wisdom before we sign off? Because we do have to be done at an hour for this to be able to live stream.
Alrighty, so number one. I should have sent this into Brock earlier. My good friend Chase sent me this early in the week, but there's a photo that surfaced about Imani Bates being jacked now. Now, let me tell you, if you go find that photo, he put on some pounds. He went from malnourished to a healthy man, a healthy boy, growing boy, finally. For those of you out there that don't know, I'm not an Imani Bates fan whatsoever, so it's kind of funny seeing that. Next up, a few days ago, Jaylen Brown called out the Pistons, which is kind of hilarious. Getting back to the Pistons being so improved, he said, when asked about playing teams like the Pistons, he said, we're going to play through Peyton. Let him go for 30. Let him go for 30. We're going to let Sam Hauser shoot that thing 10 times. Detroit, need to prove something this year. And lastly, another thing that I remembered as we were talking about Denny Avita for whatever reason. Chauncey Billups, head coach, Trailblazers, said he'd been the best player for the Pistons, mind you. Had DeAndre Ayton, a former number 1 pick, and best player off the team in the offseason. That's tough.
Is that how you know you're gonna have a bad team?
That's that. And I love Anthony Simons, man. I'm praying for him, but holy cow, that's
Tough.
Great stuff, Hunter. I can't wait to get into the season because you always bring some special sauce with this Wise Words of Wisdom segment. We're gonna have to get like a video intro for you at some point for that. But real quick before we go, I did find the
woo! He's so jacked. Look at him go.
He's not even gonna play this season, bro. He just got hurt.
This is honestly another thing. This is kind of way throwback for Wise Words here. This is like the photo that there was some beat reporter from Miami that was talking about what heat culture does to players. It was a photo of Kyle Lowry smiling when he played for a team and then him frowning for his Heat photo. This is what this is. This is the same aura.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. We'll sign off here. Great stuff, guys. We'll get back into it. Next week, we're going to actually look at the new unis in the NBA, the city unis. I think that's what the Nike calls them or whatever. But for Hunter Rhodes, Chase Winterboard, Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman. Make sure to follow us on social media at 515 Podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Hardwood Convos.